Thanks for hopping on Loan with Jen. We've got Ilse Rue today. She is a financial expert, so we're going to get to it. She's got some good slides today on just how to be better with your money. So I can't wait to hear that. So thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much, Jennifer. I'll start with a quick introduction. My name is Ilse Rue, Chief Operating Officer at Briggs & Veselka, the largest independent CPA firm in Houston. And we're the third largest in the Southwest region with just over 51 million in annual revenue. Being fiercely independent or just plain stubborn, I don't know which one. The road I took to get here has been complicated and took many turns. As my coach laughingly says, I couldn't ever pick a major in life. I was a successful investment banker in South Africa, chose to immigrate, got married, had kids, got divorced, chose to work for myself as a consultant for over 10 years to spend time with my kids, and finally accepted a job as a chief operating officer, first with Mahler Health in 2017, and then with Briggs & Veselka in 2019. I have 5 degrees, and you'll see later why I mention it, and many certifications all centered around money and the management of money. I have a lapsed CFP license, that's a certified financial planner license, a diploma in banking, a diploma in financial markets and instruments, and an MBA in finance. And an honors in transport economics. You name it. I made it a life mission to study the construct and application of money. And yet I couldn't get my act together. I'm sure that many of you who saw my bio came through geared up to get some money management, investment, tax, or stock tips. And I'm either about to disappoint you or make your day. Even 2 years ago, if I gave a talk about money, it would be centered around the academics of money, those things that I just mentioned. Today, though, I want to talk to you about your relationship with money. Consistently, through all my consulting projects and corporate jobs, the one constant that I could find when it came to money problems was that the problem didn't ever lie with money itself, but with the individual. Heck, like I mentioned, I couldn't even get my head on straight about money. And although I'm a lot better about it these days, it took a Herculean effort of radical self-assessment and honesty to start healing that relationship I have with money. I can talk about it for days. I even helped my coach to put together a program or a protocol that she uses to help other high-performing individuals to clear up their money stories. What I want to address today is the tip of the iceberg when it comes to money. I think of the exploration that I went through and our relationship with money in terms of 3 phases that you see on the slide. The foundation of that relationship, which is our history, our past. We have to do some digging there to get to the data that we need to stand in front of the mirror and from a place of radical honesty say, okay, here are my stories around money. And then there's a recovery phase, thankfully with everything we can recover. So that is the third part of what we're going to talk about later on. Let's get started. There'll be a few quizzes throughout my conversation with you today, but don't worry, I'm not going to call on anyone to share their intimate financial information. That's too hard. I wouldn't have liked to have shared it back when I started down this road. These quizzes and exercises are purely included to start you down that path of understanding what your thoughts are around money. And because you don't have to tell anyone your answers, I hope you're going to be brutally honest, the same that you are with your CPA, with your accountant, and I hope the same you are with your lawyer. Okay, so the first quiz is around your annual income. I just want you, it's a super simple quiz. What is your annual income? And I know as a real estate agent, that's sometimes kind of a moving target. So write down what your annual income is, and then take a moment and write down the number that it will take in your mind to ensure happiness and contentment. I'm going to give you 5 seconds to do that. I'm impatient, as you can tell. All right, everyone done? I hope so. Again, no need to share. This simple quiz has been provided to hundreds of people, not by me, but the paper that I read about it. And without fail, and even when I do this, almost 100% of respondents say it would take double their salary to ensure happiness and contentment. Think about that. Double what you're doing now will make you happy. Even more interesting is that when these respondents are asked this question a week, a month, or even a year later, scientists discovered a trailing doubling effect. In other words, every time I ask you this question, that amount will double. So in a year, from wherever we started today, we have compounded that number that we tie to our happiness significantly. The reason I find this quiz so powerful is how succinctly it demonstrates the constantly shifting landscape that we create for ourselves when it comes to money. And it kind of underscores how complex and interesting this relationship really is. We move the goalpost on ourselves all the time. In order to really understand your relationship with money, we have to go back to the source, right? Everything has a foundation. Where did you first learn about money? Was it a topic that was openly discussed, or was it whispered about late at night when you were in bed? That certainly was my life. Did you want for nothing, or did your family struggle? Did you come from a culture or an ethnic group where it seems that money problems were a part of the fabric of the DNA? Was it part of that oral history? Were you surrounded by people who scoffed at money and thought it was immoral? Very interesting research shows that women have significant feelings of shame around money due to gender bias upbringings. And people who suffer trauma have difficulty bypassing their fight or flight responses that are triggered when they think through money management and purchasing decisions. Take a moment to think through all that: cultural, societal, familial, and personal inputs that you have collected since childhood. And now try to fathom how complex your relationship with money truly is. The entirety of all those inputs have brought you to this place and this profession that you chose today. And it created one of two mindsets through which you interpret all your data every single day. In other words, you created your own lens through which you see money. These two mindsets, which in themselves I find fascinating, are fixed versus growth mindsets. Okay, I have to put a disclaimer here. Remember, we are learning about ourselves. So forget about right or wrong. We started learning this stuff when we are kids, and knowing is part of the journey. If you have a fixed mindset, you are determined to succeed at all levels of life. You need confirmation that you are smart, personable, and have a good character. You think in terms of winners and losers, succeeding or failing, smart or dumb. You believe people can learn, but that our basic qualities like intelligence is set in stone, and you worry about being judged. Realtors are some of the most driven people that I know, by far. So think about that. The second one is if you have a growth mindset, you believe that we can enhance and develop those basic skills. Basically, anyone can grow and improve through experience and application, even things like intelligence. We need to nudge ourselves towards a growth mindset. It's a process for sure. And even moments in time, I still find myself stuck in a fixed mindset about certain things. But if we can get to that growth mindset, that is where our relationship with money eases up and we become honest. And it's a lifelong journey. So let's recap. Many inputs through our life equals all your stories about money. And it resulted in two mindsets that impact how we earn and use our money. Okay, so think about that lens that you created and then read the quote on the screen and think about how you use money in your life. Actually, let me read it out loud. Like water, money is a carrier. It can carry blessed energy, possibility, and intention. or it can carry control, domination, and guilt. It can be a current or currency of love, a conduit for commitment, or a carrier of hurt or harm. This quote, by the way, is from my absolute favorite book in the world, The Soul of Money. What energy do you attach to your money, both incoming and outgoing? Okay, so do you use money to control or manipulate? Think about you. Are you going through a divorce? How are you using your money there? Do you use it to control your kids, to show love, to grow businesses, to grow people, to care for people? Gives you pause, doesn't it? Another important money question to ask yourself is, what is the cost of money? Personally, the 10 years I spent as an executive consultant was my cost of money. I was freshly divorced and I wasn't willing to sacrifice my afternoons with my children. And therefore I accepted high risk, high stress consulting arrangements that allowed me flexibility and the ability not to compromise. For some of you here, the cost of money or chasing your revenue goals may be a missed baseball game or a play. It's maybe a conversation with your children about missing that baseball game or that play. Is that cost too high? Or is it acceptable for you? The cost of money is very personal, and for each of us. And we often grapple understanding what the cost really is, because remember at the beginning when we did that exercise, it's because we can't truly land on a number that makes sense for us on where the magic happiness money number is. Okay, next exercise. And this is a critical one, and I know it looks like a lot of data points, but you can go back, and I hope you do this at home, because this is the cornerstone of figuring out a lot of things about how you see money and how you move through life. As you can see, I want you to write down the highest income you've ever earned, how many times you got to that level, and what happened immediately after you reached that level. And I hope you still have your taxes and your things at home, and you do go back and you do this exercise from when you had your first job. So I'll give you 15 seconds and then let's move on. Okay, I hope everybody have those numbers. I'm going to go to the next slide. You just calculated what is called your income set point, also known by the very financial definition of your comfort zone. When we read in the news of people who won the lottery and are now living in squalor or in debt, or actors or athletes who lost everything, or even amongst your friends, that friend that got that amazing job with that amazing salary and somehow messed it up, or got a windfall and lost all the money. That happens because they crossed the threshold for their income set point. And as an adult, we will always go back towards what is comfortable. We are constantly trading in our comfort zone, and not the good financial kind of trading. We trade passion for predictability. We trade creativity for continuity, the new for the familiar, and I can go on and on of the trade-offs that happen in that comfort zone. I want to reiterate this. As an adult, we will repeat behavior that doesn't work, and we will try harder and expect different results. We need to start training our minds out of that dilemma. Okay, we need a few more data points before we can start training ourselves to increase our income set point. As you can see on the slide, I added some of the questions that I worked through to uncover the data and numbers around my flawed relationship with money. It's kind of laughable. I have them written down somewhere, and I like adding them because from a certain perspective, I like seeing them because I think of how far I've come. But at the same time, my questions would be completely different now when I look at my relationship with money. Okay, remember we are talking money though. So I know that I've talked about a lot of concepts and kind of a lot of esoterical things out there, but it's money. So you need to know the exact numbers. And you need to know the exact numbers for your debt, the exact number of your expenses, your mortgage balance, what your income is, what do you need every month to cover all of that. These slides are available to you. So you will probably add several of your own questions here that will help you uncover and collect the data that will assist you on your way to recovery. Okay, this is one of the most important exercises that I want us to work through. I want you to imagine yourself as an old person and really imagine it. Close your eyes, think of yourself there. Where are you? Are you sitting with lots of animals around you? Are your loved ones around you? Are you living next to your kids and your grandkids are over? Are you in Portugal? Are you on a houseboat? I don't know. Really imagine it, smell it, see it, look around. What does it look like? What is old you doing? Really step into that for a second. Studies have shown that it is almost impossible to break poor saving habits unless you can imagine yourself as an old person. I always wish I learned that when I left Africa. This one statement, this one study, is to a certain extent still at the crux of all my issues with money. I came from a country where life expectancy is extremely low. We live in the moment in a dangerous world, and I never learned to imagine myself in a future world where I am old and surrounded by loved ones, and where I'm taken care of, because this me right now have to take care of old me, right? And that just was culturally not something that I learned. Remember when I said that there are a myriad of inputs that you need to sift through to understand what is impacting your earnings potential? All right, for me, add that life expectancy issue to a mix of gender biases, parents who couldn't keep their jobs, a country with no real growth opportunities, being the oldest child, responsible for 2 younger siblings, and you have a mix that keeps my coach on her toes. I mean, I keep her busy. So let's talk about recovery. You'll be happy to know that there is an opportunity to fix all of this. Where are we now? You know that you have to figure out your stories. You may already, for some of you, that it will just come up and you're like, oh, I know my money stories. I know where I started all my stuff. You're beginning to understand your data. You have a vague idea of what your income set point is. Some of you may have a very specific idea of what your income set point is. You know your numbers. You're beginning to understand that you have to know your numbers. Very specifically know your numbers. And you're beginning to understand that there is no magic number that will make you happy. There is no, you're chasing kind of a dream that you've put in place by yourself. So the next step is that you have to get real about a couple of things. And when you look at the tools at the bottom of that slide, the first 2 are kind of the cornerstone of how you move through, for me, how you move through this to a better place with your money. And that is understanding what your ideals are and what your needs are. As an example, because it's difficult to think through it when you're presented with this on a slide, my ideals are connectedness, kindness, and independence. And my needs are emotional security, harmony, and accomplishment. So when I buy gifts for friends, I fall back on my ideals of connectedness, kindness, and my need for harmony. And when I buy these gifts from friends with small businesses, I compound that effect. When I have the opportunity to make money, but it doesn't meet my needs for connectedness and harmony with my kids, the cost for me is too high. And I evaluate all my spending and earning goals against my ideals and my needs. And if it falls outside of it, I have taught myself to be super disciplined in moving on. Similar to an athlete that uses weights, I use commitment devices to assist in training myself to change my financial story entirely. Commitment devices are auto pay, auto investment deductions, apps that help you calculate your debt repayment, apps that help you round up your savings, spreadsheets that you've developed. Those are commitment devices. Anything that helps you understand where you are, but also allows you to only make that decision once and then automatically continues to work for you, right? That just drafts off your account. Use them. They are there to help you. I constantly evaluate my self-statements, right? To ensure that I don't attach energy to money that really is about an entirely different issue in my life. I have found that for me, it's very easy to blame my problems on money when it really is about something I don't want to deal with within myself. There are a few. Let me mention a couple. So a couple of self-statements that I guard against. Spiritual people don't have money. People with money are lucky. Money comes with strings attached. And I'm really very, very clear about replacing those old storylines with new ones. And very importantly, I've taken the time to look around and look at my group of people that I surround myself with. And I have been candid with them in calling me out on when I start attaching something to money that isn't true. And from the moment that I do that, I get challenged, and that relationship has changed. And I am, as you can see from my needs, emotional security is one of my greatest needs. But before, when I couldn't get my money figured out, I didn't have emotional security because I didn't get myself to a place of financial security. It was kind of a catch-22, right? I'm going to leave you with this quote by Anatole France. This quote is very important to me, and I'll quickly read it as well. All changes, even the most longed for, have their melancholy. For what we leave behind us is a part of ourselves. We must die to one life before we enter another. I'm a change agent, right? I'm a corporate change agent. That is what I do. I go into companies and I change them. I do complete operational overhauls. That includes and sometimes financial overhauls. And as a corporate change agent, I have always noticed the resistance to change if you don't take the time to honor the past. There's a quote. What is it? If you want to make an enemy, ask somebody to change. I live and die by that. And I promise you, I'm often very unpopular in my job because that is my job, to get people to change. You have to honor and recognize what got you here. It wasn't right and it wasn't wrong. It was just a thing. Call a thing a thing. You got here by living an amazing life. So honor it and recognize what got you here. And that will allow you to move to a more open and healthy relationship with money and really with anything else in your life. And once you get there, you'll start reaping the benefits of just that. It's an amazing place, because once that perspective shifts, your money shifts as well. All right. After that, considering what I think you thought I was going to talk about, I'd be very interested to see if anybody has any questions for me. And I don't think I can see the chat. So let me get perhaps I'll stop sharing and then I can see if there are any chat questions. Yeah, like I thought, this is.
Okay, can you see the chat?
I cannot see the chat.
Okay, there's no questions right at this moment.
Yes, okay, no, I thought that perhaps you had a different chat. Yes, ma'am.
I'll ask a question. So, I save 20% and often more, and I have sufficient savings. But I just struggle with, I'm very generous, like with my team, with my family. Like I just, like my love language is providing for my people to know that it's enough. Like if we want to go out to eat, we're going to go out to eat. Like we don't live lavishly, and I don't drive a Rolls Royce. I mean, we live, but I always have this internal struggle. Like, let's say I've saved my 20%. I mean, I would just love to just spend the rest. I mean, so I struggle internally sometimes with feeling guilty, like, oh my God, I should be saving more. Like, I'm not going to buy these little things that for me, like imagining my retirement and having, the things that I want. If I want to spend money on essential oils, I'm going to do it. So like, I don't know, what's kind of your experience with that?
You bring up something that's actually very uniquely female. And I'm not trying to say that men don't struggle with it as well. And what I hear from you is that you have a plan, right? Like, that your 20% in savings will get you to where you need to go. So then you've created your dilemma by really, if you listen to what you're saying, am I worth spending essential oils on, or should I spend it on someone else? So for me, your love language is caring and spending on other people. And I think that's wonderful, right? And if everything else is met, and essential oils is something that really means something to you and is important to you, why don't you love yourself enough to do that, right?
Yeah, I do it.
I hope so. I really hope so. But there shouldn't be guilt. I feel like, if you have your spreadsheet and you know your numbers, and that's why I love realtors, because realtors often know their numbers, right? Like, they're very clear about those goals that they have to hit, because you have to eat what you kill. So if you know what your savings numbers are, right, be very honest with yourself. Is that enough? If it's not, then maybe increase your savings. But then there should be no guilt around anything else that you spend, because you are caring for your future self.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's critical.
I feel so much better.
Yeah, and believe me, the guilt is real, man. Like, I sometimes, I'm divorced, so I don't have my kids every other week. And it took me a long time to not feel guilty when I ordered in when they weren't here, because I'm like, I want to share this experience and this food with them. But what does that mean? That I can't eat when they're not here? Like, we get to a very strange place. But if you have your money and you show and that's one of the ways actually that you increase your income set point, right? Is to build a spreadsheet, and build your spreadsheet, one, with your income set point and what all your expenses are and what everything is that you want to accomplish. And then build a second spreadsheet with what you want your new income set point to be. And then make sure that the number at the end of the month is always 0. But the number gets to 0 by adding a component that goes to savings.
Yeah.
And then every month you actually exercise by spending this virtual income and these virtual expenses. Every month you just spend it and you save it, and you train to increase what your number is that you're comfortable with. Otherwise you'll get there and you'll lose it. You'll do some type of self-sabotage, and you'll go all the way back to where you were before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I have a comment kind of question. You made a comment. Well, first of all, very great, good presentation. It really brought up some thoughts, things to think about and go back and analyze. But you said that you are a director of change, I guess, for corporate change. And you made the comment that people are resistant because they don't honor the past. And that kind of stood up to me. Are you able to elaborate a little bit more as to, on that point?
And I actually think this quote is also from my favorite book, The Soul of Money. There's a quote that says that change agents hospice the past while they're birthing the future. And when you think about people who are in hospice, that's a kind place, right? Like, that's the end of a life, and you honor it, and you surround yourself with love and with people who care about you, and that's how you let go. And you have to do that with things in your life. There's nothing worse than beating yourself up about this place that you got to, right? Because that's kind of saying, I lived a life and it didn't matter because I did it wrong. You didn't do anything wrong. You just lived a life, and here you are. And now to see yourself in the future or to move towards the future, you have to honor everything that you've done, everything that you've learned. You may have learned that from your parents that having money is considered not spiritual, right? Or that, you know, people with money are immoral. You can name it. We attach meanings to money that just simply don't exist. So honor that. No, okay, I got here. I got some of it I misinterpreted, some of it I was actually taught. And then what the amazing thing is, once you've honored it and you're willing to look at it and say, okay, that's who I am. Now let me look at who I am in the future. You build that future, right? Like you have a blank slate. You can go back, and that past made you tough, because realtors are tough. Like this is not a profession that you choose if you're not tough, right? And willing to accept risk. So honor that. And then write your future and look at where you want to go and convert those memories from the past and what you learned from the past into something that's positive and the foundation for your future.
Good info. Thank you.
I'll give you an example. I was in charge from a very young age, right? Very young age. I would say I wasn't even 10 yet, which for a long time was a very negative thing in my life, right? Until I was able to say, okay, hold on a second. I'm actually really good at my job because I've always been in charge. I'm naturally organized because that's how I had to be as a child. So that mind shift is very important. I didn't suddenly say that didn't happen in the past. I just recognized it. And I said, okay, yes, I was in charge from a very young age. But you know what? That allows me to be very good at being in charge now.
So you're basically saying that I'm here today, honor my past that got me here, but there's a reason there's something I do want to change, but where does the resistant part?
Oh, it's your stories. It's your subconscious, right? Like I don't know how old you are. I'm 47, right? For 47 years, I've told myself the same thing. So that's where the resistance comes in, right? Like you have your comfort zone, and I want to go back to my comfort zone. It's an unpleasant place sometimes, but that's my comfort zone. So it's breaking free of that comfort zone. It's like training. Think about training as an athlete, right? When you haven't run in forever and you got to go run 3 miles, the first day it's very hard, but you keep training and you keep pushing through your limits, and that's how you change. You could always run. You always had the ability to run. You just hadn't run 3 miles in a long time.
Yeah, good points. Good points. Thank you.
Okay. I don't think do you guys need me to give you some stock tips? All right, everybody. I don't think that there are any other questions.
Thank you so much. So in your free, you work for a firm, you're CEO, but I mean, thank you. You're obviously very passionate about the topic. So do you talk to groups often? Like that obviously drives you. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and some resources?
Yeah, it does drive me.
Their money quest.
Yeah, so it all kind of ties back, right? I found a CPA firm, and all they do is care about people's money, and they're very good at it. So I feel like a natural fit in there. Yeah, my passion has always been around startups, right? Around incubating startups. So I volunteer, or I'm heavily involved with Women in AI, the accelerator. Before that, with the Texas Medical Center Accelerator. And it's through this evolution of being part of these accelerators and startups. And I have surrounded myself with many, many entrepreneurs. I've always noticed just these strange quirks that we have around money. And it wasn't until I really found my coach that I was able to genuinely explore it. But yes, I love startups, And I wish we could get out of our own way, because we bring all our crap to our startups. We really do. And I am very passionate about it. I think that we just don't talk about money. It's a taboo, and we don't talk to our kids about money. They don't understand that what comes in has to cover the mortgage and it has to cover everything. They don't know about taxes. There's a certain taboo about it. I did see, hi, Louis. Louis, how are you?
I'm doing great, Ilse. Thank you.
One book in my area of expertise. Oh, wow. So my area of expertise is change management. When it comes to money, the book that I will absolutely always recommend is The Soul of Money. And I think it resonates with me because I'm from Africa and I've seen the negative impact of cash injections into Africa without collaboration, right? There's you change the energy of the money and suddenly people expect a handout and there's no progress and there's no economic change, right? So The Soul of Money, The Soul of Money is the one book when it comes to money that I really care about. When it comes to my job as a change agent or a transformation specialist, I would recommend Whistling Vivaldi.
What is that?
Whistling Vivaldi.
Whistling Vivaldi?
Yep, by Claude Steele, I believe. Claude Steele. That book is honestly the cornerstone. Everybody's business is a people business, right? And that book has been the cornerstone for me to understand how to talk to people and how to help people through change and what biases I bring to those conversations. Everything I try to accomplish from a transformation perspective, I try to come at it from that place of what do I bring to the table? And do I really see that person? And do I really understand where that person is coming from? So those two books, from a transformation perspective for my corporate job, Whistling Vivaldi every day. But from a money perspective, always The Soul of Money. Oh, and there's a really good book, Leadership and Self-Deception.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ilse.
Yeah, no problem. I read a lot, so we can just talk about books all the time if that's what you guys want to do.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, everybody. I don't think that there are any other changes or questions. Leadership and Self-Deception. That one, I made my son read that last weekend. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Well, thank you so much. And we're going to send this out. We'll send you a copy as well. And thank you for being here with us. We really appreciate your time.
Yeah, no problem. I know it was unconventional, but I don't talk about investments anymore because
I think this is great. I think that, sometimes people just need to hear it's also obvious, right? But
yes, it is also obvious.
That we need to be reminded because we forget.
Every day.
Thank you so very much.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Yes, thank you.
Legacy Mutual Mortgage is an equal housing opportunity lender. The opinions expressed here do not reflect those of Legacy Mutual Mortgage.